You're listening to the Rachel's English Podcast. I'm so glad to have you here. Today is a continuation. It is part 2 in a series on vowels. If you haven't listened to part 1, you might want to do that. It's a good place to start. If you'd like a transcript for this podcast, it's absolutely free to download. Please visit rachelsenglish.com/podcast and look for this episode. Okay, I'm here with my husband, David. We're discussing the vowels of American English. Last week, we did the first 5 vowels in my list. We did the aw as in father, all as in law, a as in bat, e as in she, and I as in sit. American English has 11 vowels, so we've got 6 more to get through today. David, are you up for that?
I'm up for it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So in the last episode, I asked if you could come up with all of the different vowel sounds in English, which you couldn't, not surprising. But one of the ones that you did come up with was the vowel, like in bed. And I forget what word you came up with for it, but I think that it was spelled with an E. Now, you know, after working through that first podcast, that the sounds in American English do not correspond with the letters in a meaningful way.
Right.
So this sound can actually be spelled 8 different ways.
Wow.
We can spell it with just the letter E, like in bed. We can spell it with the AY letters, like in says. That one I think is really interesting. We have the word say. What do you say? You say S-A-Y, pronounced with the A diphthong. But then when you say he says, when you add the Y, then we change the, when you add the S, says, we somehow end up changing the vowel to the sound.
Yeah, I'm shaking my head. And that is so crazy.
And actually, that's a pretty common mistake. People will say, and then they'll say, says.
Right.
They'll mispronounce this word, but it's actually says. S-A-Y-S. He says, she says. Now, the past tense, said. He said, she said. Same vowel, different spelling now. Now, instead of A-Y, it's A-I. So that's another spelling for this sound. E-A, like in the word head, spelled this way, or pronounced this way. I-E, like the word friend. E-O, like the word leopard. So E-O is not a very common combination, but in the first episode, we learned that it makes the E sound like in people. And here we're learning it can also make the sound like in leopard.
Wow.
The word share. Now, this is a little bit different because it's followed by an R consonant, which does color the vowel a little bit. Share. But it is considered the vowel.
That sounds precariously close to a diphthong.
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 Well, that is because of the R sound. It changes the vowel a little bit. Share. Air. I actually say that it's more like the A diphthong, like in say. Share. But it's also not 100% that.
Well, you're right. That doesn't sound quite right either.
No, not quite right. But it's certainly not a pure But if you were going to look up the word share in the International Phonetic Alphabet in a dictionary that tells the phonetic spelling, it would say this vowel. It would say The word bury, B-U-R-Y. Another case where it's followed by the R, so it's not quite pure, but if you were going to look this up in a dictionary, it would say the letter U, making And
a regional thing, too, is that a lot of people say bury.
Yeah, you're right. It might even be.
I don't know if it's a lot. I know people in the region that I grew up with might say that.
Well, it might even be considered a secondary pronunciation.
Okay.
You might even see it in the dictionary. I'm not sure. And I agree, these example words with an R, like I only included them because I couldn't find an example word without an R. The R does change things a little bit. And guys, if you're curious about that, I do have a pretty awesome YouTube video that goes over how the R can change the vowels. I will link to that in the show notes for this episode on my website. Okay, 2 more words because I like to have a total of 10 with the S sound are bed. I'm sorry, I already did that one.
Mhm.
Best. Best and can you read one, David?
Check.
Check. That's right. Okay. Let's move on to another vowel. How about the vowel?
All right.
Okay, this is weird. This one is weird, guys. So, this is different from British English. If you looked up this sound, a word in British English, like the word girl, it would have this sound, but we do not pronounce it that way in American English. If you look up the phonetics and you see a sound, it should be the same no matter what language you're talking about, because that's the whole point of these phonetic symbols. One symbol, one sound. But Americans have done something with this sound. It's always followed by R, and we just combine them into one sound. Sometimes I call it an R vowel. It's like the R consonant, which we know is a consonant, but it's functioning as a vowel. Like in the word bird, wouldn't you say it's b, d?
Versus what?
Well, versus there being a more vowel sound, a
Mhm.
vowel sound separate from the R.
Yeah.
So it's like an R vowel.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bird. The British pronunciation of this word is something like bird, with that vowel. So if American English has all of the same sounds plus the R consonant, then you would think that it would be bird, bird. But it's not. We don't have that vowel sound before. It's just bird.
What are the other words? Burn.
Burn.
That's the yeah.
Same. I mean, it's always
That's-
followed by
yeah.
an R. It's always this vowel is basically the R. So one less thing you have to learn if you know the R. Then you've got this vowel. So this vowel always followed by the R. It can be spelled IR like in bird, OUR like in journey,
Mm-hmm.
EAR like in learn, OR like in word. And before I keep going, I just want to point out that a lot of these words are some of the hardest words for non-native speakers. This sound is a real challenge. In the noun of the word chauffeur, it's spelled EUR. It's spelled UR in the word burn. It's spelled YR in the word myrtle. So lots of different spellings, 7 different spellings for this sound. A couple other extremely tricky words with this sound, earth. That's so hard for non-native speakers. And you look at it and you see EA and you think, oh, I need to make some sort of vowel here.
Right.
But no, don't. Just think R. Earth. Girl. Girl and world are 2 of the words that I get most requests for, I think.
Really?
Yeah. No, why are you surprised? They don't seem hard to you?
Right.
Well,
But R's and L's are both hard, so
Yeah.
girl makes sense.
well, world also has the R and the L.
Solid point.
Yeah. It's when this vowel is followed by the dark L is when it gets really tricky. Curl, whirl, world, girl. Ul, ul. Try that with me.
Girl.
Mm-hmm. Girl.
Girl.
Yeah, a lot of people don't separate the L sound, and I think it's good sometimes to practice it separate. Ul. And even though it's a 1-syllable word, I think that it helps people to think of it as being 2 syllables. Ul. Girl. Girl.
Mm-hmm.
World. Old. World. So, I don't know. For those of you listening out there, maybe that's helping.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, one thing I wanted to do is I know how I tell students how to make this sound. David, as a native speaker who's never thought about it, if you were somewhere where someone was asking you, hey, how do you make that sound? I can't figure it out. What would you say? How would you describe how you're making that sound?
Rounded mouth.
What else?
tongue is going out to the side, like touching the side.
Whoa. Never heard this before.
Touching the sides.
What is your tongue doing? Okay. The tongue is touching the sides.
Yeah.
You said going out to the side, and I was picturing like sticking out of your mouth and turning a corner. Oh. Okay. So you said rounded mouth, by which I think you mean lips.
And tension in the soft palate. Girl.
Okay.
That's what I got.
Okay. So can you come back to the tongue and describe that one more time now that I'm not picturing it sticking out of your mouth?
Well, it's rounded. It's like a little bit of the thing where you fold your tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Grr. Well, maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, right? It's so hard describing this sound. It is so hard for non-native speakers to figure this sound out.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I think is true as I've been studying this sound is I think there are two different ways that native speakers make it. Some native speakers make it by taking the tip of the tongue and curling it up. Is that how you do it? No, me neither. I do it by, like you said, the tongue is touching the sides of the top teeth, the insides of the top teeth.
Right. That's what I do.
Yeah. And then the tip isn't touching anything. It just kind of pulls back a little bit.
Right. Yeah, that's what I do too.
Yeah.
Oh, you're really good at describing it.
Well, I've been trying for 10 years. Yeah. But I've sometimes been describing how I make the R, and I've heard native speakers say that's not how I do it. And then they describe curling the tongue. One time I was teaching English at a little language school in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I was working with a girl from Korea. She was great. I loved her. And we were working on the R, kept not being right. And then all of a sudden she did something where it wasn't perfect, but it was starting to have the right sound. And I was like, what are you doing? And she described that she was flipping the tip of her tongue up. She was curling it up, which does get a similar sound.
That was non-audible.
David just made an R sound that no one in the world could hear. But the thing that I found with students when they do that is it sometimes gets too hollow sounding. They drop their jaw too much. And that doesn't sound quite right. It's a more focused sound, more in the front of the mouth. So that's why I like to tell people, lift the middle of your tongue, let it touch the insides of your side teeth on the top, and then pull the tip back so it's not touching anything. And I also think a lot of people have a mental block with this sound. It's so hard, it's so different from what they're used to, that they think the tongue position must be really complicated. But it's actually not that different from the mouth at rest. It just lifts a little bit. The tip just pulls back a little bit. It's not a huge movement. If anyone listening to this thinks they improved their R, I want to hear about it. Let's move on to the next sound, the oo vowel. Like in boo.
Poop.
Oh no. I saw this look on his face and I didn't know what it meant, but now I know that it meant I'm going to say a dumb word on the podcast. Poop, that's right. The oo vowel. Okay, so this one actually wins the prize for most spellings. 11 different ways to spell this vowel.
Okay, I want to go.
Okay.
O as in loop.
Yeah.
U as in flute.
Yes.
UI as in fruit.
Yes.
EW as in crew.
4.
IEU as in use the loo.
Wait, what?
The loo? That's not an English word. I guess.
In lieu of?
Oh, in lieu of, yeah.
Yeah.
The loo is bathroom somewhere.
Yeah, in Britain, but it's spelled LOO, I think.
Oh. Well, then in lieu of.
Yeah. Okay, good.
That's what I meant.
No, I hadn't even come up with that one.
The Q, like as in the line.
A line, Q, UE, UE. You already said UE.
But isn't it EUE?
Yeah, I guess you're right. EU. Yeah, I guess it's EUE. That's another one I didn't have.
Look at this.
Oh my God, David's come up with 2 that I didn't have. This is incredibly embarrassing. I have to go update my website immediately. Okay, shall I give you more?
Sure.
Okay. Let's see. You didn't come up with OE like in shoe.
Ah, good one.
Yeah. OUGH like in through.
Mm-hmm.
OU like in you. WO like in to. And that's the only word where there's a WO making the OO vowel that I know of. Also EU like in sleuth, but that's very related to Q. Actually, I want to talk about OUGH like in through.
Yeah, how come those GHs get to count as vowel? Because in other words, they might signify a
right. Like in cough.
off.
Yeah. OUGH there. There's a consonant and a vowel. I don't know, David. I don't know how the pronunciation of those letters evolved, but it is crazy town. Let me go through how crazy town it is.
All right.
I have actually a fun video. I will link to that in the show notes that also goes over these 4 letters. So TH, OUGH. Though, right. So there it's the O diphthong. Put a T at the end. TH, OUGH, T. Thought. So there it's changed. It's the aw vowel. Take away the ending T, put an R after the TH. THR, OUGH. Through. So now OUGH has changed to the U vowel. So far we've had it being the O diphthong, the aw vowel, and the U vowel. The U vowel. So 3 totally different pronunciations for OUGH. What about B, OUGH?
That's the bow
of
a ship.
Actually, no, that's BOW. So it's pronounced the same way, but it's a different word. I always think of bow like from the Christmas song, hang a shining star upon the highest bough, like the bough of a tree.
I do not know that Christmas song.
You don't know that? It's Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas.
Oh.
Yeah. Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. Actually, that really makes me want to listen to that song, even though it is July as we are recording this.
You were such an early holiday starter.
I know. I limit myself pretty well, though. I mean, I don't. If I do listen to Christmas music early, I limit myself to like 1 or 2 listenings, 1 or 2 times through.
Okay.
Don't you think?
Well, sometimes you start in September, though.
But I'll only listen to it 1 or 2 times per month until.
Okay.
After
I'm
Thanksgiving.
chuckling because if that's limiting yourself, I just can't imagine if you didn't limit yourself, if you just ran amok with Christmas music.
You guys, here's what I love. I love old jazz standard takes on Christmas songs, like Bing Crosby, Ella Fitzgerald. I love that kind of thing. Oh, man. Come December, that is all I want playing in my house. Okay, but back to OUGH. So BOUGH, bow. If you switch out the B and make it a C, is it cow? No, it is not. It is cough.
Impossible.
So there, OUGH has changed. Now it's a vowel and a consonant. OUGH, off. If you drop the C and add EN, you have EN, OUGH, and it's enough. So we have an F, but we change the vowel. Cough, off, enough, uff. So now it's the as in butter vowel plus F. How crazy are those 4 letters?
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
OUGH, I think, is the best example that I can think of how crazy English spelling is and English pronunciation. Okay, we have 3 more vowels to go over. The vowel in push. This is a vowel you did not come up with in episode 1 when I was trying to get you to think of all the vowels you could think of. Push. It's spelled 4 ways. It's spelled with just a U, like in push or sugar.
Okay.
It's spelled with 2 O's, and this is the most common spelling. Like in look. It's spelled OU, like in could, should, would. All of those have a silent L. And it's spelled with the letter O, like in woman. Woman and women, these are 2 words that people are often asking me about. So, woman, the stressed syllable is like in push. And the plural, women, it's like in sit. Okay, so a few other words with this vowel: book, cookie,
Good. Took.
pudding,
Pudding? Oh,
pudding,
pudding.
pudding, pudding, pudding.
They do pudding and pudding.
Yeah, it could also be
The dessert.
Yeah, it could be like he's putting that on the grill. With the T, the verb put, he is putting would be pronounced the exact same way. Whether it's a T or a D, pudding, pudding.
What's he doing? He's putting pudding on the table.
He's putting pudding on the table. I like it, David. Firewood, firewood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how would you describe that vowel? Let's say I'm totally new to English, trying to learn. You're like, this is the 9th vowel in Rachel's podcast. I'm going to teach you how to say it. What would you say? Yep, push.
You mean how to do it?
Yeah, what's your mouth doing?
It starts closed. Push. Well, that's the P part.
That's this is so fun for me.
Rounded. Your lips shoot out. Ush.
Uh-huh. Yep, I say flared.
Flare. They flare, as
the
it were.
corners come in a little bit, which then pushes the lips part out.
Ush.
I also sometimes think it's helpful to think of trying to create a little space between your upper lip and your top teeth. Helps you bring that lip out a little bit. Okay, great, David. We started with the lips together. Then he realized that was the P sound. So good. Okay. 2 more vowels. You did come up with this one when you were trying to think of vowels.
Nailed this.
Butter. This one is what I call the core sound of American English. It's what we make when we're thinking. I don't know. I call it our thinking vowel. And I think that it, in other languages, people make other sounds when they're thinking. People might be like,
right.
I mean, that's crazy. You think in your own language, your mouth, your mind goes to some core sound for your own language.
That's interesting to think about.
So for American English, it's and this is one of the hardest sounds for people to get. And I think it's because it calls for essentially total relaxation. Like your lips are totally relaxed, your jaw, your neck, your throat, your tongue, pretty much too. And most people want to tense a little something up, which is why it ends up sounding like aw, like in father, because the tongue has some tension in it. But you got to try to let that go. One time when I was probably 4th or 5th grade, but maybe middle school, my mom and I were shooting hoops out in front of our house. We had a basketball hoop. And she passed it to me real quick when I wasn't expecting. And it like totally hit me in the head. Big time. Right in the face, actually. And I kind of blacked out a little bit. And I always think about that when I'm thinking about total relaxation and pronunciation. I always say, think that you just got hit in the head with something and you're like a little woozy, a little dizzy. Everything's hanging, like your jaw's hanging, your lips are hanging, your cheeks are hanging. Basketball face.
And that's hard because if someone's struggling to make the sound, the impulse is to try harder.
Yes. Trying is like one of the worst things you can do sometimes.
Yeah. That's tough.
It's tough. Okay, this sound has 5 spellings. The letter O, like in the word above. The letter U, like in the word adjust. OU, like in country. Country. OE, like in does. How does does get spelled that way? It's so weird.
Yeah.
It should be DUZ.
Duh.
OO, like in blood. So those are our 5 spellings. A few other words with this sound: brother,
month,
other,
public,
rush, Okay, last vowel. This vowel gets its own name. For every other vowel, I had to think of a word that I was going to call it by, like the a as in bat or the e as in she. But this vowel actually has its own name, and it's the schwa.
Ah, the schwa.
Have you ever heard me talk about the schwa?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think the schwa is?
Something that you barely say.
Okay, yeah. It's always unstressed.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a very quick sound, extremely relaxed. It's like the sound we were just talking about, butter, but that sound, can be stressed. A little more jaw drop. The schwa is always unstressed, and it's always said extremely fast. There's less jaw drop. It's like this. You got hit in the face with a basketball. Your jaw drops just a little bit. Like about.
So the schwa is specifically that sound.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Did you
I thought it
never
was
know that?
all the quick little ones.
Oh, no.
It's just
It's just.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the schwa. Now, there's something you have to keep in mind with a schwa. So if you were to look up a word in a dictionary that has a schwa, you would see the symbol of an upside down E.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the schwa. But you have to be careful with it because if it's followed by one of 4 consonants, M, N, R, or L, you're no longer making a schwa. Those 4 consonants are called syllabic consonants. They take over the syllable. They take over the schwa. So if you see the schwa followed by one of those, you don't try to go, You just go right into the consonant. M or N, for example. Okay, so let's look at some words. 9 spellings for the schwa. Okay, I already said about. So there the schwa is spelled with the letter A. About. It can be spelled with the letter E, like in the word anthem. Now here, it's followed by the M, so you're not hearing a separate clear vowel. You're not hearing a separate schwa. Anthem, thumb. It's more just the M because the M takes over the schwa.
Yeah.
Anthem. Ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Spelled E-A. Shin. Here it's followed by an N. N is one of those 4 sounds that will suck it up, absorb it.
Okay.
Shin. Ocean. Okay, before we talked about the word chauffeur as a noun. Chauffeur. Now I'm talking about it as a verb. Chauffeur. I don't want to have to chauffeur you around all night. Yes. So here it's spelled EU. The schwa is spelled EU in this word.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's followed by an R, a syllabic consonant, again, you're not hearing a separate vowel. You're hearing The schwa and R mixed together. The word possible. Possible. Spelled with the letter I. The word bottom. This is just like anthem, where it's caught up by that M, but here the letter O is making that schwa.
Mm-hmm.
Jealous. Us. Spelled O-U. Autumn. Not as common as fall, but we do use the word autumn.
Yeah, it's pretty commonly used.
Here the schwa is being made by the letter U. Autumn. The word syringe. Yeah. Syllabic with the R, so it's getting sucked up a little bit. Sir. Syringe, spelled with a Y. So those are the 9 spellings, and I like to have 10 words, so I'm rounding it out with the word banana.
At the end?
Well, both places. I chose it because there are 2 schwas.
Oh, yep. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
We have a schwa in the first syllable, b, and the last syllable, b. Nan, b. Nan, banana.
That's a lot of schwa.
It's a lot of schwa. Okay, so that does it for the 11 vowels. We've talked about the many different spellings that can represent any of these vowels. And we've also talked a little bit about position, mouth position. David did a great job trying to describe that. It's really hard for native speakers to do who never think about it.
Mm-hmm.
David, thanks for agreeing to this topic that you know nothing about. A little bit technical at times.
Yeah.
but I hope you learned something.
I did.
I think actually, talking with you about how to describe something like how to make the vowel can, it helps me too. Hearing what someone who has never tried to describe it before describes it as kind of helps me think about it in a new way too.
That makes sense.
So thanks for being here.
I'm glad. Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome.
Thanks to everybody for listening to this podcast. If you'd like a transcript of the podcast, it's absolutely free to download. Visit rachelsenglish.com/podcast. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher. There are new episodes released each week. And if you'd like, it'd be wonderful to see your review in the iTunes store or on Stitcher. I read all the reviews, and I love to hear what people think about the Rachel's English podcast. Until next week, this is Rachel
and David
signing off from Philadelphia.